Benefit from no ATM fees nationwide with a Columbia Bank Advantage Plus checking account. Use any ATM anywhere nationwide for total convenience. Make any ATM your ATM. For Advantage Plus checking, receive credit up to 10 surcharges or $30 per statement cycle, whichever is less at domestic ATMs not owned by us that charge a transaction surcharge. Maximum rebate of $360 for 12 statement cycles. All offers are subject to be withdrawn at any time. Member FDIC, count on Columbia.
It needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that. Just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Aloha, everyone. Excuse me. Aloha. Welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. And our guest is Julia Sellers. And I'm just getting a message that she's on Skype right now. So, Ahmad Painter, do you see Julia? Ahmad, can you hear me?
I was trying to call her.
Anyway, she just said, I'm on Skype.
Well, I'll try and add her, but she's showing offline.
Okay, I'll tell her.
Unless I got some other.
Showing offline.
See, it just said call failed.
Okay, well, not sure
tell her to make sure she's added me.
What should I tell her? Always have this Skype stuff. Remember, I gave you her. That one is showing that she's offline.
That's what it's showing.
Okay. Okay. I'll tell her that. How's everybody doing? Once again, hi Sasha, are you there?
Indeed, I am. Good morning.
Hi, yes. It's afternoon, honey. Can you and Ahmad talk for a little bit, and I'll text her. Say hi to each other.
Good evening, Sasha.
Hello. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, we have technical difficulties.
Yes, we have, as usual.
I mean,
right.
I assume I added the right one because it was the only one that said I had 5 contacts with her. There she comes. She just came online.
All right. Well, I'm going to do her intro then, okay? Julia Sellers was born in Banovce. Anyway, Slovakia. I can't pronounce where she was born. She'll have to tell us out of Slovakia. And for socialism, she was sent to study in the former USSR. She attended 8 colleges, which ended. She went to a law faculty at U.K. She attended the journalism faculty at American University in Washington, D.C. She speaks fluently with 4 languages. She has U.S. and Slovak citizenship. She's here today because she wrote a book about the author. She's a lecturer, author, coach, and she had her first out-of-body experience back in 1995, and since then she devotes all of her free time to studying OBEs. She's interested in quantum physics, free energy, anomalous cognition, near-death experiences, and topics connected to emerging science and religion. And she has 3 degrees, fluent in 5 languages, dual citizenship. Her book is called I Have Seen It Tomorrow. This extraordinary book explores out-of-body experiences of her husband, and she's a member of the Society for Scientific Research, and she worked with the Free Association, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. So we work with Free as well, Ray Hernandez and all the gang. I Have Seen It Tomorrow is a fascinating book. It's informative and profound in its implications. The accounts from 2 individuals who have personally and regularly experienced out-of-body states, the wealth of information and details. It takes the reader on a journey of exploration with extraordinary detail of what it can be like to explore the multidimensional nature of reality. And it answers many questions about the possible nature of reality, our interactions with non-human intelligences, what happens to the soul when it leaves physicality, what is it really like on the other planets and dimensions, we're talking about the nature of time, what is consciousness and the potential future for humanity. It's called I Have Seen It Tomorrow, and her pseudonym is Iris Christ, but she is known as Julia Sellers. Okay, sweetheart, Dr. Lessin, are you there?
Yes,
you're there.
Hi. How you doing, all? Glad to be here with you tonight.
Hi, Julia. So where are you in the world right now? What part of the world are you calling in from?
Well, actually, I'm in Europe, in a small state in the heart of Europe. It's called Slovakia. It's a former Czechoslovakia.
Oh, okay. So there, that cleared that for me. Sasha, would you like to say hi to Julia? And the man say aloha to Julia.
Aloha, yeah. Slovakia is to us a heroic thing of secession from the Czech Republic, which was peaceful and helpful, and it was just like a real inspiration for us that you can't have peaceful transitions.
Exactly, yeah. Well, I'm surprised you know about it.
Well, Sasha Dr. Lessin is a historian.
Oh, that's
Go ahead,
great.
honey.
I studied with Stan Groff.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So,
You know who Stan Groff is, Julia?
Oh, okay, great. Okay. So that's.
But do you know who Stan Groff is?
No.
No.
Oh,
okay.
he
So
was.
just explain real quick.
So Stan was the Czechoslovakian who sought asylum in the United States when the communists took over, and he brought with him all his notes on lysergic acid diethylidamide as a therapeutic tool, and did all the research on how to.
Oh, okay. No, I know him, but you know his name in the Czech, how you would pronounce it is Stefan Graf. You know, so that's, you know, and when you say, you know, Steve Graf or whatever the pronunciation in English is, oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, I do know him. Yeah, you know, everyone does in Slovakia and the Czech Republic. Yeah, he's great. Yep.
So he went out of body one time and came through the television of his brother. He had never seen his brother's living room, and he came right through the living room, and everybody saw him. Right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, no. So Stan was in California or in Maryland, I forget which, and he said his consciousness came out. He said the television set in his brother's place in Prague, and then he was able to draw and describe everything that in that room that he'd never actually physically been in before.
That's possible, yeah.
Yeah. So and so holotropic breath work, which and LSD facilitated and theogenic work, comes to the same kind of thing that you basically the most amazing remote viewing, and you realize the concept of remote is merely a linear concept, that everything is really connected.
Yeah, I mean, you can get out of body easily when you breathe certain way, and part of a breathing, you can easily, like when you switch between the right and the left, nostril, you go like, and you just do it quickly, and you do it for, longer period of time, it can take you out of body. And there's, many techniques that basically would help you, get out of body. But also you can get out of body, naturally, spontaneously. You can just be walking, talking, drinking coffee, whatever, and now the next thing you know, you're out of body. So yeah, out of body experience actually is it's a phenomenon that contemporary science does not know how it happens or what the factors are or what neural mechanism there are, that would help you to go out of body or what will take the consciousness out of body. But you have many out-of-body experiences on different levels, actually. It's funny because, what the science would tell us that out-of-body experience is experience during which the center of consciousness or yourself appears to the experiencer, appears temporarily occupy a different position than your physical body. So basically the consciousness occupy a position which spatially is remote from your physical body. And basically what happens is that you perceive the world from a location outside your physical body. You can end up on the ceiling, you can go further than that. You can, go, if the out-of-body experience happened in the room, first thing you know, you end up on the ceiling, right? You're watching your physical body from the ceiling. You are confused because you say, hey, my physical body, I see my body, on the bed, and what am I doing up on the ceiling? I'm able to watch my physical body from the so-called elevated spatial visual perspective, right? Now, a well-known psychologist, Blackmore, actually suggested that out-of-body experiences, are it's an experience in which the experiencer clearly understands the disembodiment, that there is, the self or a consciousness that appears to be out of the body, and then there's your physical body, okay, and it is separated. So basically when you are out of body, you know it. You're not dreaming. You are not lucid dreaming, because lucid dreaming is very similar to out of body experience. But, the difference is that When you lucid dream, you know it's a dream, right? You can control the dream when you lucid dreaming, right? You know what's happening in the dream. You can basically control it. And you are aware of dreaming. But when you're out of body, it's an experience. Again, it's totally different from dreaming. Number one, you see your physical body from a position that is outside of your physical body. So it's the so-called elevated spatial visual perspective, right? When you're in the body, it's called egocentric visual perspective, because you clearly know you're in the body, right? When you're out of body, there's a disembodiment that you can tell, you know, it's a huge difference. So what I'm saying is that everyone who has had out of body experience before, they know the difference between lucid dreaming, dreaming, or being in the physical body. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes, indeed. So a lot of people do have out-of-body experiences that, you know, sometimes they're in surgery, they find themselves above watching their surgery, and they, you know, symbol it as like a near-death experience. Some people just, I've been traveling out of my body all my life. And I don't know how common it is. I kept it to myself for many years. I've been talking about it because I'm now in the field, but for years it was like, you know, what do I do? Go down and tell my parents? I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell anybody until I was, you know, an adult. So how common is this ability to go out of body? Can everybody do it, or just a percentage of the population?
You know, actually, there, you know, the research would tell you that around 10% of you know, the healthy population would travel out of body, and they might not know about it. But again, when we talk about out of body experiences, we have to realize that, you know, accounts of out of body experiences, you know, there, as I said, there are many different levels, and you can get out of body under hypnosis, under trance, under the influence of drugs. Now, you know, you can get out of body when you're in a position, like it's a borderline between sleeping and waking states. It's called hypnagogia and hypnopompia, you know, and so what I'm saying is that you have to distinguish out-of-body experiences that are happening in a waking, active state under full consciousness, right? Now, there are out-of-body experiences that will happen, as I said, you know, when, like, as a part of the near-death experiences, when you undergo a sudden shock, there's a car crash, whatever, you know, people are dying, they would leave the body, you know. So what I'm saying is that you can elicit out-of-body experience by surgery, okay, by, you know, electrically, you know, by electrodes that were, you know, put into your brain or on the surface of your brain when, you know, doctors study how your brain works under epilepsy. You know, you have a lot of clinical population, you know, people who undergo seizures, schizophrenia, epilepsy. So yeah, out-of-body experiences happen all the time to people that they might not even be aware of them, or they are, but they are scared. They don't know how to identify them, what to think of them, you know, and mostly they don't talk about it. But in my book, I basically describe out-of-body experiences of my husband, who was born with them, right? He has been having out-of-body experiences for over 40 years now, and he has them every day, and as I said, over 40 years. And that would, if you count them, I just calculated it the other day, and I said, Michael, if I take it that you have out-of-body experience every day since you were born, you must have had over 15,000 out-of-body experiences, and I only counted one a day. But he has massive out-of-body experiences, right? To the point that he basically is tired of it. He wants to get rid of them. He wants to be normal. He just wants to be grounded. He doesn't know how to. And it's funny, we were laughing the other day because I'm like, Michael, he says, I would pay a lot of money to someone who would teach me how to get back into my body, how to stay grounded, because you have a lot of workshops around the world, especially in the USA, that would teach you how to get out of body. People are interested in learning how to get out of body. My husband, Michael, would like to get grounded. He doesn't know how to get grounded. So it's funny because he's tired of his out-of-body experiences. He's been traveling a lot. He sees a lot of things during his travel, and he's kind of tired of it by now. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if there's something that has the initial trigger. Go ahead, Sasha.
I find that it's useful before people can disidentify with the body, for them to identify with the body, to realize that their body has a voice that has that they can hear but not be taken over by, so they can identify or disidentify with the body. Then it is easier to allow them to access out-of-body experiences. First, they have to experience being embodied.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. As I said, Michael, when he was small, right, when he was a child, right, it was happening to him. But the funny thing was that he did not know what is happening to him, and he thought that what he experiences out of body, everyone does. He thought it's normal to everyone. So he really did not talk about it until he was 18, 19. And until then, he thought that whatever was happening to him out of body, it's a normal feature of everyone, of every, healthy individual. He thought that people were born with it because it was happening to him. So he, didn't have a reason to think that it's not happening to his classmates. You know what I mean? So basically,
right.
Yeah. And, he only learned much later that, what was happening to him was really special. And the things that, he was able to see while out of body, it's not like everyone was, able to see. So,
right.
Yeah.
Did he remember when it started, like what was going on? And
yeah.
Have him here.
Oh, well,
what was going on in his life when he had his first experience?
Yeah. Well, so the funny thing is that he has been through the so-called conscious birth. I don't know whether you've heard of it before, but he remembers when his mother was giving birth to him. Not only that, he remembers his prenatal stage, So basically, he remembers when he was as a, developing baby in his mother's uterus, right? He remembers that. He even remembers, and that's funny because he tried to talk telepathically to his mother when he was developing baby in her uterus, and he was kicking a lot. And sometimes, his mother would say, "Oh, the baby's kicking," and he would reply to her, "Mom, it's not my feet kicking. It's my feast, his feet were kicking, his hands were kicking, not his feet, So he tried to explain that to his mother, but he was not, she was not responding. So basically it started, as I said, he remembers it from whenever he was toddler, or rather when he got his memory, when he was able to memorize, he clearly is aware of his out of body experiences. Now, when you're out of body, basically you do not need physical eyes, because, and it's funny, because you can see by touch, you can see or identify things by touch, by smell, by taste. Now, at a certain point when you're out of body, you can feel the shape of objects at a distance. For example, if something is round or square, you feel the shape at a distance while you're out of body, and at the same time, you can taste whatever you're looking at, you can hear it too, because, every object has their own, sound vibration, whether it's a hum, like a humming noise, or whether, whatever the sound is, including infra and ultra vibration that human ear cannot hear. Now, basically, every object has their own kind of like internal vibration, a signature, right? Now, when you're out of body, you can get a feeling of how dense the object may be that you're observing, whether it's soft or it's hard. So what I'm saying is that you do not have to touch it. You can just touch at a distance, as it were. Now, so no matter how far you are from the object when you're out of body, you basically can touch it at a distance. You can smell it as a distance, you can hear it, and stuff you have. Now, when Michael is out of body, he has problems with his physical eyes when he's back in a body. The funny thing is that sometimes he cannot read through his eyes. He can only read through touch and the feel or thought, okay? Now, sometimes when he types on the computer, he types through the shape of air. He types through the thought, okay? So these are some wonderful things that are happening when, out of body. And I know that it sounds really weird or crazy to some of the people, but this is how it works,
Well, I'm getting a heavy downpour, so I'm going to mute to minimize the sound on the radio. We just got torrential rain. Keep talking. Go ahead. I just want to let you know. Okay. It might be a little delay when I ask a question because I'm unmuted. But go ahead.
Okay. But can you hear me okay, guys? Or hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
yeah,
that's great.
You're fine. I'm just getting torrential downpour on a tin roof, and I know that it takes over the sound of the show, so I'm just going to mute. And then if I have a question, it takes a second to unmute. Okay. Or if you ask me, there's going to be a little delay. So just let you know.
Okay, great. Okay. So basically, and again, when you're out of body, funny things, tend to happen. Now, one of the fun things is that when you're returning back to your body, right? You kind of like have gone backward in time, So basically, while you're out of body, mostly you are in the future, right? So what's going on there is kind of like precognition. You can see the future and things that are happening in the future. Now, when returning back to body, right? You're returning like back to the present. Now, when out of body, as I said before, your consciousness, or rather you can say, your energetic signature or the aura extends into a greater space-time, and you don't have to physically see the object. You can just feel it with your extended aura or the energy quantum that is kind of like extended in the greater time space. Now, sometimes, Michael says that sometimes when he is out of body, right, and would like to return, right, sometimes he have a difficult time, coming back to his body. Sometimes he can return to his body whenever he can to. Sometimes he has a hard time returning back to his body. But basically there appears to be some kind of self-regulated mechanism or process when it comes to returning back to the body. Now, if you go into, the astral dimension, he often travels in the astral, right? It's easy to go back, but the higher you go, or rather the deeper you go, right, it's more complicated for you to come back to your body. Sometimes, when sometimes Michael would see beings of, let's call it, beings of light. They're like plasma beings that have no physical bodies attached to them. More or less, they kind of like geometric shapes, different shapes, full of, light that is shimmering. And he can interact with them, telepathically, of course. Now,
does all these contacts give him advantages in life? Does it give him more? Does he have gifts?
Yeah, he has gifts. Of course, he's a natural psychic. Now, you say, does it give him advantages? I would tell you that mostly not, because he is he doesn't want to come out of the closet yet. That's why I wrote my book under the pen name in the first place. My book is not written under Julia Sellers. It's written under Iris Kirst, KRST. So people, when you look, on Amazon for my book, do not type, Julia Sellers, but rather Iris Kirst. So basically, he's not ready to get out of the closet yet, and he does not use his abilities. But in the future, we've talked about it, in the future, he's going to retire soon. And in the future, we would like to work with some scientists in the U.S. that we already talked to. And we would like to get some scientific research, some neural correlates, with his brain, how his brain works, what exactly is happening to his brain when he's out of body. But, Michael has lots of abilities. He can talk to animals. He can talk to discarnates, to dead people, to ghosts, to people who are not born yet, to babies in the prenatal stages. He can locate people who are, who are missing. He can, work on different, cases, cold cases or different murder cases that were unsolved and that kind of stuff. But again, he would like to enjoy real life. He would like to be normal like the rest of people. So basically he sees his ability to get out of body easily as something that kind of bothers him, would like to get rid of it, but doesn't know how to. You know what I mean? And I know it sounds funny because, how many people would love to have his abilities to work with them. But he's kind of low profile, as I said, and, he, as I said, in the future, he's ready to undergo some research. And, when I ask him, Michael, what would you like to would you like to use your abilities for, let's say, for nonverbal people to communicate to autistic children, to numb people, to people who cannot speak, to people who are in coma, And he says, yeah, that would be some kind of research he would like to get into. Because, you can also use out-of-body experiences for remote viewing, for spies, being a spy. But
right.
Again, go ahead.
Listen, I'm telling you, I understand how to help him is to allow him to center himself between being special and not being special, so that he can choose from his center, given the situation he's in, how much of each of those. So he's not a slave to being special, and he's not a slave to being regular, but he can. It's just a matter of being able to learn how to center himself and embrace both energies simultaneously and decide his external action based on a neutral assessment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely. And I think, that's something he can work with. And it's, I just love what you said, and I totally agree with you. But again, it might be, hard for him because, as I said, sometimes he will get out of body when he does not want to, actually. So he would be pulled out of body. Sometimes he can control it. Sometimes he cannot control it. So out of body experiences is phenomena which is controllable and not controllable at the same time. So sometimes he will get out of body when he does not expect that. Sometimes he can control it, but sometimes he can get out of body when he's at work, while working, and it bothers him because, he has, work to do. Why is he out of body, So it's kind of tricky. It's not easy,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
Fascinating.
So, yeah.
Wow, poor guy. So he's at work and all of a sudden he's out of body. What does his boss think?
Oh, good question. It, sometimes, and I know because I'm laughing over it, but, there's nothing to laugh about. So basically, sometimes he might get into a situation when he is not sure what year it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has to write a report, undersign it and put the date on it. Sometimes he's confused. He goes like, okay, is it 2018 or is it 2030? Because he might have spent some time prior writing the report in 2030. Now, when he comes back, he's kind of, sometimes he doesn't know which reality is real sometimes. If he spends a lot of time in the future and comes back, right, he's getting confused as to what reality is real, if you know what I'm saying. So it's very tricky, and he spends a lot of times in the future, and when he comes back to his body, he's confused as to which reality is real. Now, we have some funny situations all the time because, yes, go ahead. No? Okay.
Well, what about horse races? What about horse races in the stock market?
I try to ask him, Michael, why don't you use your abilities for something like, predicting horse racing and stuff like that? And he says, Julie, this is not ethical. He says, it's not correct. He says he has some ethical issues doing that. Yeah. He says that would not be right. So whatever it is, but sometimes he would get things right, he would just, and sometimes it's funny because I'll tell you how it works with numbers. When you're out of body, okay, majority of times you see things upside down, right? Upside down, meaning that if you see some numbers, like let's say 3, and it's upside down and a mirror image, it could become like 6 and 9, you know what I'm saying? Or if it's 7 and it's upside down and like a mirror image. So it gets tricky because when you're out of body, and I can tell because I've been out of body a number of times, you see things 180 degrees inverted, so to speak. Not only that, you see things from it's called the so-called circular or global vision. So you see things like 360 degrees around. What it means that you see things in front of you, behind you, and from the sides. So you go crazy because you look, can you imagine looking at a cup in front of you and you see the cup in front of you, but at the same time you see things happening behind you and on the side. So it's kind of tricky. You cannot tell the numbers when you're out of body. Some of it is distorted. Sometimes when you're out of body, you see things a little bit different. The colors are different. The shapes are a little bit different. They can get wavy and moving around you, you know. So it's not that easy. You know, when you're out of body, you can move through walls. You can move through doors that are locked. When you're out of body, you can move through human people, you know, I mean through people. Like you're out of body and you're fly away somewhere and you end up on the street. So you're on the street, it's not you, it's not your physical body, it's not the matter out there, it's not the dense matter. You leave the physical body behind, you're traveling, your consciousness is traveling. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is a vibratory or it's energy, right? It's quantum of energy that is out there, and energy can easily pass through walls, doors, through physical bodies. So, you know, it's not that easy to predict numbers when you're out of body. You can get confused easily. Okay.
Has he ever gone to a future where there's no human beings?
Oh, you mean like is he interacting?
We're no longer there.
Oh,
like we wiped ourselves out. And what is he seeing when he goes to 2030?
A lot. Yeah. The world looks a little different. Like he told me, you know, that in the future, right, we will be able to change the colors of the walls by pushing a button. You push the button and you have an interior design with the colors on the wall the way you want it. It can go from green to yellow to red, whatever. Now, also in the future, he told me that you would have some it would not be real food, but he says there would be a pill or something you would put in a glass of water, and after you drink it, you would get a feeling like your stomach is full, like you just eaten, and different things. Like you get certain pill, it will give you a feeling like you eaten pizza. You get another pill that will give you a feeling like you're eating chocolate. Yet another pill will give you a feeling you're eating a steak, you know? And it's funny because it just spilled. Did you put in the water? You drink the glass of water and you feel like you've eaten pizza, chocolate, you know, cake, whatever. So these kind of things. But Michael also, you know, loves, you know, traveling through, you know, like the moon or Mars. And as a matter of fact, he has been to Mars many times. And, you know, he said, you know, there used to be a water, there used to be lakes and oceans on Mars. And it's funny because I know he's not making it up, because when I visited, I've been to America last year for a couple of months, you know, visiting my parents-in-law. I took my kids there and everything. And as a matter of fact, it was in July last year. I was watching a live hearing of the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, right? And they were having a congressional hearing, right? And there was a guy who works for NASA, and this guy was responsible for the Mars mission. And the congressmen were asking him, well, what about Mars? You know, do you have any information about how the red planet looked like, how it looks like now? And the guy said, there were lakes and there was sea on the Mars, right, in the past. But it's funny because the same information I got from Michael in my diary that I wrote back in 1998, and he was telling me about water on Mars, about he's seen some oceans, their seas and lakes. So basically he told me the same stuff that the guy told the U.S. representatives last year, which was over 20 years later than what my diary says, So I compare information that Michael told me back in 1998, and it was almost identical to what I forgot the name of the guy, but he worked for NASA, and he, released some information about Mars to the House of Representatives, and it was almost identical to what Michael told me 20 years ago. So, or when we talk moon, the moon, I mean, Michael told me that the U.S. government has buildings on the moon, and, they have, basically, when it comes to the moon, it will be heavily inhabited in the future. There are already secret government buildings there right now. The information, of course, is hidden from the public. And it's interesting that in the future, many pharmaceutical plants will be built on the moon, okay, for the processing and manufacture of medicinal products, of drugs, which is interesting. And another interesting thing.
Was there a reason that there were a lot on the moon?
I don't know. That's what I wondered. Michael says, there will be a lot of, pharmaceutical plants built there, and they would be processing, and manufacture the medicine there. I mean, the pills, the drugs there. I don't know the reason. But also he told me that on the moon, people must wear oxygen masks because of the atmosphere, which is different from the atmosphere, of course, from the atmosphere on Earth. And so it's not easy to adjust to. Now, when it comes to Mars, you don't have to wear oxygen masks there, which to me is like, okay, the atmosphere on the Earth is similar to, the atmosphere on the red planet, on Mars. When you're inside the buildings on the moon, however, you don't have to wear the mask. So that's something which, is interesting, at least to me, So.
Wow. So he's been to the moon, he's been to Mars, he's been to the future. He's been to the future on Earth. He's been to the future. So we still have planes and cars, or have we moved into something beyond fossil fuel technology?
I haven't talked to him specifically on that, but in the future, I know that there won't be cars as we know them, today. Everything would be different. It's my understanding that in the future, but far future, you won't have children being born for whatever reason. That will stop, and, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, we don't have children being born in the future, then, what is there to follow?
Are we sterile? Have we sterilized ourselves?
It's my understanding.
Like the gray aliens?
That's true. I mean, and this is the topic that I don't really, it's not the greatest topic that I like to cover, but yeah, the aliens and the, the ETs and all the non-human intelligence that is around us all the time and is here right now. And we already have people walking on the earth that are kind of like in the human body, but they are not human. They're more like robots. You have this happening a lot. Michael sees a number of different non-human intelligences or ETs or, extraterrestrial around him all the time. He does not interact with them because he says, if I don't talk to them, they don't talk to me. But he personally has told me he's seen over 100 or a couple of hundred of different ETs, right? So it's not like there's only one, two races. Oh no, there's many of them. There's hundreds of them, and they're here. At least Michael can see them. However, he does not interact with them, or he does not like to interact with them. So
is he afraid of them, or is there fear around it? There's no reason to. I know he interacts with his the beings of plasma. I call them. He calls them the its. Okay, they have no gender. They have no physical bodies. They are no ETs. They are kind of like the higher levels of non-human intelligence that he interacts with. They have no bodies. They are just like blobs or plasma beings, right? He just interact with them, but he would not interact with lower ETs or non-human intelligence. He has no reason to. They're around, he's aware of them, they're aware of him, but unless he would approach them, they would not approach him. That's how that's what my understanding is, and that's what he's told me, is happening. As I said, Michael has, when he's out of body, he he's able to travel through different dimensions. It's inner dimensions. Now, it's funny because you can travel within, if you just change the dimensions from the third to the fourth or the fifth, okay? It's like within one density. Let's call it density, because it's my understanding that the different dimensions are in pairs of three. It's like 1, 2, 3. It's one density. Then you go 4, 5, 6. Okay, different density. Then you go 6, 7, and 8 dimensions. That's different density. And if you travel, like from the third to the fourth to the fourth, when you travel within the first three dimensions, right? It's like the three-dimensional space of time. That's something else than when you cross from the third to the fourth, right? Or from the fourth to the fifth and the sixth. It's higher dimensions that are kind of like they divided with the void. It's magnetic void. And if this magnetic void is gone, okay, you blend into different dimensions, and you do it automatically. It has something to do with the angular rotation of a particle
particle spin, but it's heavy quantum physics that I don't want to get involved in, right? For lay persons, it's something, it's heavy. But, we can talk, about, out-of-body experiences and what kind of, yes.
I want to know what it's like to be a mother of a kid like this. What it did to you have this person as your son.
No, this is her husband. But what do your children think of it? What did his mother think of him? Yeah.
Well, it's. Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, my kids have out-of-body experiences as well. I have a 6-year-old daughter. I have 17-year-old son. But, when Michael is out of body, the kids can tell. I mean, the older son, when he comes and says, Dad, can we do this or that? And he can see that, Dad is out of body. He says, oh, I won't bother you now. I'll come later when you're back. It's kind of, and it's funny because my parents know too, my parents know. They see, it's like, maybe we can talk about it after break.
We're coming up to break, yeah.
So you look different when you're out of body comparing to when you're not, and we can talk about it after break and other exciting things. So, when is the break?
In 1 minute.
Okay. So we can. Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. We'll pick that up. But I just wonder if he looks like he's dead or just looks like he's sleeping or what does somebody?
Well, actually, not really, because with Michael, when he gets out of body, suddenly he can be sitting talking to you and get out of body. Right? And when he gets out of body, his eyes would be half closed, right? His eyes would be half closed, and when he moves and he's out of body, he would move very slowly, and it looks funny. It's look like a robot is walking. Like there are the robotic movements, kind of like slow down movement, and you could tell.
What if driving?
Oh, wait, honey, stop. We'll be back in a few minutes. We're taking a commercial break. Back in about 5 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
You need some more speed records in this day and age. You need coverage.
Coverage? Oh, you mean them little root weevils that crawl around popping off cameras in your face?
Those root weevils write history.
Many of you know that quote by Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth. Well, you can, and Event Horizons will give you those truths. So when you're mad as hell and not going to take it anymore from that memorable CNN network, you'll know just what to do. We will draw you in and become your news addiction at Event Horizons. Join us Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time at freedomslips.com. At Revolution Radio. Our world team members are Dennis Fetcho, John Ilias, David Dunger, Halakas MD, Melanie Bridgeton, Jim Mars, Paula Harris, John Trallo, Maria Payan, Christopher Husser, DODDS, Jonathan Orchard, and me, your anchor, Dr. Robin Falco.
If you decide not to volunteer, it will not be held against you in any way.
Sounds dangerous.
It is. Very dangerous.
Count me in.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a 5th-dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitor's peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all! See how the trouble you've started? Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right! You tell them I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio!
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. And I'm your host, Janet Lessin, with Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin and Mad Painter Thomas Becker and Julia Sellers. We're talking about her husband and she both have the ability to go out of body, and they may come to your living room tonight. But before we get back to our show, we're going to talk about this is a more fascinating subject. Wanted to remind everybody that we need your donation, so please go over to that donation button on revolution.radio and contribute, because it's the first, and I don't know if we made our goal last month, but we may have to play catch up. Matt, do you have any figures for us today?
Oh, yes, we're minus $425 off of last month's gold, so we are really in need of donations.
Alrighty, so, yeah, help us out. Donate something. We need your donations. So, okay. Thank you for those who do take the time out and make donation, because every penny, every dime, every dollar, every $20 bill, 100, that helps us tremendously. So thank you. Okay, before we took the break, we were talking about all kinds of stuff, and I forget what we were saying, but over the break, we were talking about how Michael and Julia, I guess Michael predominantly, they sometimes have witnesses or verification. The other thing I was thinking about is, like, my goodness, it's amazing that someone hasn't recruited him for some remote viewing program, you know, and I guess a lot of that from the people I've interviewed before, they like to recruit people like yourselves, but it's like a degree of accuracy. So I think they give a number to a location to see how accurate you are. But he's reporting things that probably some of the world governments don't want us to know about Mars and Moon and all those stuff. So back to you, Julia. Tell us about the episodes, the incidents where you could verify what was going on. It wasn't just Michael, you know, watching him from, you know, what's going on with his body, but maybe he had encounters with other people that said, hey, I saw you. Like my cousin used to project to me and be at the foot of my bed. But I was able to say to her, I saw you standing at the foot of my bed. I don't know if she was aware that she did that, but she did that a number of times in my childhood. It would be crazy. Okay, back to you, Julia.
Yeah.
Oh, and Sasha, did you want to say something before Julia starts up again? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Listen, Julia, I'm left worrying about what happens. Does Michael ever go into a trance while he's in a car or driving a car or something like that?
Yeah, actually, you know, he does it all the time. But the funny thing is that, when he drives and he gets out of body, which he often does, right, he would end up in a location where he actually knew he was going, but he would not know how he ended up there, because the whole time while he was driving, he was out of body. But somehow it works like you're an autopilot, you know. Somehow his physical body was switched to we can call it autopilot, and he would be driving automatically, right, while being out of body. And that happens to him a number of times. And now he told me before that, you know, Julia, I went out of body and I am here. You know, I came where I was supposed to come and I'm here, and I don't know how I came here, how I ended up here, because I don't remember driving. I knew I was in a car, got out of the body, but somehow, right, his body, physical body, was able to continue driving while he was out of body and observing something else. And yes, that's happened all the time to him. So it is really interesting. Now, you were talking about, that why someone does not hire him for, remote viewing, whatever. He was kind of like hired before. He worked it was a murder of a politician, in an unnamed country got murdered, and he worked on the case, and we were taken to the murder scene, and when he got there, he automatically would get out of the body, and he would see how the murder took place. He would see that basically the police until then thought that there were only 2 shots fired, but he had told them, well, no, there were 3 shots fired, right? Which was testified. Which police came to the conclusion that that was the case after. So basically, he worked on a murder case, and I now remember, and you probably remember too, that back in 2004, I guess, there was the case of Chandra Levy. In 2001, the Chandra Levy case was the most watched event on the national TV in America. It was the intern. You don't remember? It was an intern that was murdered in Rock Creek Park near Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. She was 24. And she was, and there was a congressman, I forgot his last name, Gary Condit, I think, congressman, that she had a love affair with. And then suddenly she was gone. She disappeared, and she was found murdered later on in the Rock Creek Park. Now, so I remember we were watching TV because we lived in Washington, D.C. back then. And there was a report on the Chandra Levy case on, I think CNN it was. I can't remember. Now, Michael would get out of body, and he would see how the girl was murdered and how she died. And, he would told his confidant how it happened and everything, and how he believed the intern was murdered based on the information he was able to view remotely, or being out of body, because remote viewing and out of body is not one and the same thing. Now, he basically described, what he saw, and the confidant documented the story in writing and had it notarized by a U.S. notary in July 2001. Now, the person Michael indicated on the notarized document as the murderer, was not identical with the person who was sentenced to 60 years for murdering Chandra Levy. Okay, so he said, no, that's not the guy. Now, many years later, the conviction of the guy, his name was Ingmar Guadigua, whatever. Okay, so the guy, the whole case was overturned last year or 2 years ago, right? And after having been released from the prison, Mr. Guandigi was reported to his native El Salvador, right? It was back in May 2017. So basically, it wasn't him. They caught the wrong guy, and we have it notarized, and a lot of other things. And I don't want to talk about it into detail because it's kind of dangerous and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but what I'm saying is that, that's, so basically he has the ability to see things that most people do not. But that's one thing. The other thing is he willing to use the information officially with authorities? Is he willing to help out authorities? That's another thing. It's my understanding he thinks it's dangerous because he has kids, family, and stuff. So it's not that easy, It's kind of like, all the remote viewing programs that secretly were going on back in the 60s, back in the 70s. We have some disclosure right now going on where, the government would say, yes, we funded heavily, remote viewing programs. And we used people such as Ingo Swann was a great remote viewer who also had the ability to get out of body. He would do both remote viewing and out of body viewing, because as I said, it's not one and the same thing. Basically, when you're out of body, right, you see things in 3D. You are part of a scene which you are observing. You kind of like observing something, so you are the observer and you are the observed at the same time. While when you remote view, there's no 3D. You remote view from a point in your mind, be it a third eye, whatever. But when you're remote viewing, right, you see pictures, black and white or in color, or you do not see pictures, you see some symbols, and then you try to figure out what the symbols mean. That's associated remote viewing. But when you're out of body, you are out there in 3D, although your physical body is not there, but your consciousness is able to perceive things as if you were there with your physical body. You know what I'm saying? So basically, there's a difference between remote viewing and out-of-body experiences. That's what I'm trying to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sasha or Thomas, do you have a question or feedback?
I don't. I think she's doing pretty good.
Okay. I can just talk forever, and I just have so many things.
I just wondered.
Here's what
I just want to
like.
give them a chance if they have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
What's really cool is if you could give us a directed visualization for people who aren't driving their cars right now, how they can have some it's useful to them. Or to the planet. Could you lead us in a remote viewing visualization, please?
Oh, can I give you a remote viewing visualizations?
Yes, please. Over the radio for millions.
Oh, no, not right now, because I can't get out of body right now. If Michael was here, I don't get out of body at will. I have out of body spontaneously, right? Like I can be trying to fall asleep, and the next thing I know, I end up on the ceiling watching myself, from the ceiling. The next thing I know that I am able to listen to people speaking on the street while I'm sitting, or my consciousness is sitting on the ceiling. I'm able to, pick up some feelings of people that are walking on the street. I'm able to know what people in the house, like when I get out of body in my house and I end up on the ceiling, I am able to tell you what kind of show my son on the second floor is watching. Because although I'm in my bedroom, right, confined within the four walls of a room, I can hear with my ears what's happening in the next room. Okay, I can hear through the wall, so I can tell, my son, if he would tell me, "Oh, Mom, I was not watching that," and I will tell him, oh yeah, you were watching it, and I told you many times not to watch the show, and you were. And he would tell me, "How do you know I was watching it? You were fast asleep in your bedroom." And I'm like, oh yeah, I might be, have been fast asleep, but I was on the ceiling at the same time, and I can't tell, or I could tell you were watching this and that. So this is kind of funny thing that happens too. But yes, but it's
you can't get anything over on Mom.
Exactly.
Sure.
But when you're out of body, you have many different kinds of perception that ordinary you do not have when you're in a body, right? Now, you can, there's different bodily, vestibular, and proprioceptive perception that you have when out of body. There's a presence of variety of physical sensations, such as, vibrations of various intensities, emanating directly from the inside of your body. Now, when you're out of body, or when you're getting out of body, guess what? You can hear your own heart beating as if you were inside of your physical body. So basically, normally you don't hear your heart beating, but when you're out of body, you hear the voice or the sounds of your own heart beating as if it was turned on the radio, like when you listen to a radio and you hear sound coming out of the radio. This is how clearly you can listen to the beats of your own heart when you're out of body. Now, you can have different sensation of body shaking from the side to the side. The shaking seems to be provoked by buzzing vibrations that emanate from within your body. Now, you have different sensations of floating. You have, like it happened to me, I had the sharp burning pain or burning sensation in the sacral region, okay, as well as the energy centers of the coccyx, is the tailbone, right, in the back, And sometimes I had an experience of traveling through a tunnel. Now, the vast majority of people who have experienced traveling through the tunnel are people who underwent the near-death experience, right? You have the tunnel with the near-death experiences. But I had it when I, went out of body. Now, you watching your own body from an elevated position, mostly ceiling or the side walls, when you're in an enclosed space, you can see your own physical body contours, the double or the parasomatic body, the etheric counterpart, whatever you want to call it, which mostly would look transparent or glowing, or it would have like intense white color, like milk color, you can perceive the self, your consciousness, leaving the body or moving away from your body. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can get out of body just in a matter of a second. Sometimes when you leave your body slowly, you can be watching your etheric counterpart leaving your body, okay? You can sometimes even, get a clear sense of there's an ability of the experiencer to control your body remotely, right? Now you get a strong feeling of being taken into another space or dimensions or remote past or distant future, or an environment that you can tell that is very different from terrestrial, right? You know that, what you're perceiving right now is not terrestrial. It's some kind of different environment. Now, sometimes you undergo an instant transfer over long distances to different places, including what is perceived by the experiencer as other dimensions, as I said, past or distant future or whatever. Sometimes there's a clear sense that, that yourself is projected outside the physical body and has the ability to move in space-time, and it creates a distinct feeling of flying or hovering or jumping or skipping over large distances in space. You can watch yourself kind of like jump or fly in space even. Now, there's ability, as I said prior, to cross or pass through tangible objects, such as walls, doors, windows, pieces of furniture, ceilings, buildings, different objects or what you have, or even the people. There's ability to live the body under full consciousness, as I said, while, you continue to carry out simple activities in the physical body. Like you're talking to others, you can drink a coffee, you can answer yes or no, to someone who tries to talk to you while you're out of body. So basically, when you're out of body, you observe your own things. However, you are able to do some activities in your physical body, right? You can, drink coffee. You can engage in a very simple conversation. Like you can say yes or no, but you can tell, when Michael is out of body, and I know he's out of body, and I try to engage in a philosophical discussion with him, it's not gonna work. He can just go on and say yes and no, yes, Julie, no, Julie, and I know, oh my God, he's traveling now, he's not here, so forget it, Now, also when you're out of body, sometimes you're able to touch other objects, and the outside or as well as inside of the so-called living biomatter, what I call, or mineral, plant, animal, or human, you're able to touch them outside your body, but it's very hard. You have to spend a lot of energy on doing that. Sometimes you kind of like there's an ability when you're out of body to even move inanimate objects or affect them otherwise by a distance, such as you can break glass at distance, without any physical contact between the experiencer and the object which is affected. Now, when it comes to visual perception, when you're out of body, right? You have sometimes when you leave, body, you have visions of kind of like bright glare, or lights, despite the fact that your out of body is taking place at night. So you thinking to yourself, what are the lights? I seen beautiful lights and many of colors and lights. And, you know that it's midnight. So where are the lights coming from? It's a complete dark around your physical body. But when you get out of body, you see lots of lights, the experiencer often see like bright, vibrant colors or like plasma-like shimmering lights, accompanied by sounds sometimes, right? Now, when you're out of body, you can get blurry or double vision or distorted vision of a surrounding environment, right? Now, sometimes, and I remember that happening to me a lot of times, that I saw something like, I call it like wave-like distorted motion of surrounding objects. Like the objects are moving, like there's a clock on a table moving, but it's like a wave-like distorting motion of the clock, even though the clock is not alive, of course. But when I'm out of body, I see it moving, kind of like talking to me, you know? Now there's a change of shape. Yeah, there's a change of shapes of surrounding objects in an unusual waves. You know, as I said, there's 180-degree inversion in perceiving the environment. There's the circular vision, you know, 300-degree vision, and you see everything from a side, from, you know, behind, in front of you, and everything. Now, it's funny because you have some distinct auditory sensations when you're out of body too. There's like sound similar to buzzing bees or flies. It's like the bzzz, and this is the sound that you hear a lot when you're getting out of body or when you're out of body. And sometimes there's a deep, I would say.
Do you have any idea what that is? The bee sound?
Yeah, it's vibration coming from within your body, because vibrations as such do give out noise, right? The vibration, when the vibration has certain amplitude or intensity, they would give out noise, right? It's an internal noise that normally you do not hear when in the body, but when you're out of body, suddenly you are able to hear the vibrations that are happening within your body, and you're able to hear them loud when you get out of body, right? Sometimes you hear the sound of bells, or it's similar to like metal objects when colliding with each other, you know, or sound similar to like rattling or ticking or whizzing or whatever, you know. Now you hear inner sounds coming directly from within the body. Now you can hear the sounds of your own heartbeat, of your pulse, and the sounds seem to be coming directly through the experiencer physical ears from outside in. Although they're happening only in your body, you hear them like coming from outside, like from a nearby radio. And it's really funny because you're kind of getting confused, like, what are the sounds? What is the noise? You know, where does it come from? Now, you know, as I said, when you're out of body, and Nikola Tesla has that too. He was a frequent out-of-body experiencer, and he had the ability to hear people talking at considerable distance, you know. And the parents took him to a doctor because, you know, they said, you know, our child is able to hear sounds coming from miles away, and he was diagnosed some kind of, you know, disorder, actually, you know, but no one knew at that time that he was having out-of-body experiences, and all the funny sounds and noise that he was able to hear or listen to was basically coming based on his out-of-body experiences. So what I'm saying is that, you know, there are different, the ability to hear people talking at considerable distance when you're out of body is something very normal. It's a typical sign of out-of-body experience. Now, you hear through the walls, as I said, you know. Now, sometimes you can get what is called sleep paralysis. I'm not sure whether you heard of it or not, but sleep paralysis is,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's body paralysis or inability to move from the place where the body is located at the time of being out of body. So it's kind of paralysis of either the whole body or certain body parts. such as, inability to close or open the eyes. It's like your eyes got stuck. You cannot close them. You cannot open them. Open them, And sleep paralysis is a sign that accompanies a lot, out-of-body experiences. And a lot of people who are frequent out-of-body experiences actually go through sleep paralysis prior to getting out of body. Okay, now when you're out of body, there's a anomalous perception in the form of extrasensory abilities. Extrasensory perception of information drawn from other human beings, including unborn, including animals, trees. You can get information from trees, from plants, but it's all happening on the level of exchange of instant thoughts, telepathy, and you exchange feelings and emotions with the trees, with plants. And it's all happening telepathically. You suddenly get information from a tree or from a plant, and you get it either in symbols, which you have to interpret on the right side of the brain, or you get the whole words or the whole sentences appearing in your mind, right? Now,
what kind of emotions do plants have?
It depends. It depends. But I remember and this is, that happened 4 years ago in our garden, when my son broke a branch of a tree, right? And Michael talked to him, to my son, and Michael walked up to the tree. And he was able to telepathically interact with the broken branch of a tree, and he said, the tree felt a pain, and the pain that the tree felt, Michael was able to feel as well. And he says, to my son, that what you did to the tree, you kind of broke the energy or energetic signature of the tree. Not only trees, but also human beings have the so-called energetic signature that is a part of your physical body, and the energetic signature has the feelings and emotions, within them. And the energetic signature of a tree was invaded or broken by my son because he broke the branch. And Michael talked to the tree telepathically, and he says, I could feel the pain of a tree. Whatever the tree was experienced came out as a emotion within the physical body of Michael. So he says, I understood it as an emotion. Okay, so whether or not the tree was able to go through the emotion, I cannot tell. But what I can tell is that the information that the tree telepathically communicated to Michael came in the form of emotion to Michael. And the emotion was one of hurt feelings or pain. So Michael was able to experience the emotion of a broken branch. I know it sounds crazy, but this is really how Michael.
That's delightful. So Michael, you hurt the tree's feelings.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
And how did Michael respond to the realization that, he hurt the tree? He hurt the tree's feelings.
Yeah, well, he was not happy about it, but at that time he was like 14 or whatever the age. He could not understand to the full extent, but he tried to understand that, oh, okay, trees have feelings too, and he never did it after. He was playing soccer or whatever, and somehow he broke the branch of a tree, and it's still there. The tree is still there in the garden. And when I pass by the tree, I always think about what happened 3 years ago. And so it's stuff is happening, and it's just funny how it works, and how we're united with the nature, how we're united with plants and the trees and other beings. So so the out-of-body experience, as I said, when Michael's out of body, he perceives thoughts, feelings, and emotions of other subjects or objects. Let's say we walk on the street, and there's a individual, whether male or female, but if the individual has high enough energies that would attract Michael's energies, right? He would get out of body and end up in the body of the other person, right? And when he ends up in the body of another person, he could pick up their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions. He can say, the person just ate steak and I can tell, or this person just broke up with another person and I can feel the pain and that stuff, So basically, it's the ability to extract somehow information from either, objects that are inanimate or even living objects, right? And Michael would get information from rocks, mineral, crystals, wood, metal, water, plasma, lights, colors, or different shapes of light. He would extract information, unless it's plastic. And this is interesting. He would never be able to get information from plastic things, like a rubber or something. It has to be organic in nature, and it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. So basically, sometimes he's able to sense, moods of others. Examine their states of consciousness, their energy flow. There's even ability to withdraw some meaningful information from other individuals based on, tactile, auditory, or olfactory sensory perception. So what I'm saying, if you're out of body and there's no way how you go and touch the person with your physical hand, you touch them with, or you get the information via tactile touching, or touching at distance, or olfactory sensory perception. What it means is that you get information through your nose. I know it sounds funny, but sometimes you can get information by different odors, or different tastes, something that tastes sweet to you, okay? Like when you're out of body, you get a lot of taste. Now, suddenly you get a taste of rotten apple or something which is rotten, and you know that, hey, something's going on. I have negative entities around me. That's how I know, because my tongue tastes something rotten, right? Sometimes on the other hand, sometimes on the other hand, you get a taste of honey or something, or sugar or something which is pleasant or sweet, and you know that either there are positive entities around you, or maybe on the street there's someone passing or walking on the street who has positive feelings, who is happy, and you can pick up the joy of a person that walks on the street and get the feelings via your tongue, via the taste on your tongue. I know it sounds incredible.
I taste you.
Yeah, exactly. I taste you. Exactly. So, now when it comes to the modes of exiting the physical body, there are different kinds of, ways of how you can leave the body, Now, sometimes you leave the body in a waking state, while fully conscious, but without intending to do so, and unexpectedly. As I said, that sometimes Michael would be sitting or working on a computer and suddenly he would be taken out of body unexpectedly, so he cannot kind of like navigate it, and sometimes he would get out of body willingly, sometimes just out of the blue. Sometimes you leave the body, while standing, sitting, walking, talking, working, whatever. Sometimes, however, you would awaken from a deep sleep or semi-sleep or lucid dreaming, and you would find yourself out of body. Okay, sometimes you would get out of body via, I said, hypnopompia, hypnagogia, right, or microsleep, or REM microsleeps. And you can get into a state of being outside of physical body at the level of pure consciousness. So basically, you would kind of know that the self or the consciousness is in the form of kind of like a point hanging or hovering around, on the ceiling, and it's disembodied from a physical body and existing independently from the physical body. And, while you're floating or you're hovering or you're moving in a broader space-time, that something left the body, and that something, you can call it the self, you can call it pure consciousness, you can call it the soul, right? The Christianity or religions would call it the soul. It's the soul that left your body. And the soul indeed does leave your body. Like when you're dying, it would leave your body and it would never come back to your body, right? That's what the death, the natural death.
Does it have weight? Does the soul have weight?
Yes, it does have weight. And as a matter of fact, Michael told me that when you leave the body, that you go down weight. Because the energy that leaves your body has certain mass to it, right? So there is a small difference between the physical weight while in a body, and there's a difference between the weight of your physical body comparing to the weight when you're out of body. Small difference. And I know that there are some scientists that wanted to study that with Michael. It was 2 or maybe 4 years ago when Michael was invited to undergo the research with the group of scientists that actually wanted to weight his body while out of body and went back in the body. Okay. It was 4 years ago, and Michael declined at that time. But as I said, that in the future, he is, I think he's ready to get out of the closet after he retires, and we are ready to go through certain in-depth research when it comes to his out-of-body experiences. Yeah. So,
in your bio, it says that you had some experiences with extraterrestrials. You personally, right?
Okay. I do. So I work with the FREE, right, organization. That's the Edgar Mitchell organization for research into extraterrestrial. Now, I have some to the degree that I 20 years ago, 20 years ago, when I started to have my out-of-body experiences, I was visited by a being that looked human, but whether it was a non-human intelligence or other kind of intelligence, I do not know. I just know that this non-intelligent, non-human intelligent was talking to me and kind of explaining to me what they were doing to me at that time when I was leaving the body. But Michael has been in touch with, as I said, the higher non-human intelligences that he calls the its, and that are basically that are trying to be around since he was born, and they kind of navigate his life and tell him what to do and how to do and how many children to have and why it's important to have the kids and what the kids' future is and why they are important. And so kind of like I know about the future of my kids and their kids and other generations to follow, and what will happen to some of them. And again, I'm very cautious at this point to talk about it openly because Michael is not comfortable about talking about it at this point, and so I don't want to invade his privacy, or we agreed that for now we rather not talk about it, but in the future we might be able to talk some of the things that we know are happening to our family, mostly to our kids and to their future offsprings, why they're here and what they will be used for in the future. But as I said, at this point, I rather not discuss that. I'm not saying in the future we will not, but at this point, I rather not talk about it.
When someone is out of body, are they in danger of their body being harmed or someone else walking in, taking over? Is there any danger of that?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it might happen. And again, when I said that people, there's many people who would like to learn how to get out of body, and they would attend different workshops that would teach them different techniques, how to get out of body. I say that people do not try to get out of body forcefully or using different techniques. If it happens spontaneously, naturally, organically, then fine, go for that. But do not try to do it with the use of artificial techniques, because when you do, sometimes you might get out of body unprepared just because you listen to just because you use different techniques like binaural beats. That's one technique that you use, and it's auditory acoustics technique that would put different frequencies into your right ear and different into your left ear, and then if you listen to it for 20-30 minutes, you can get out of body. But okay, you will get out of body. But what is the next thing? You get out of body unprepared, you can get into astral. And now, if you get out of body in a very negative mood, right? You can end up in an astral. And because your negative mood, you will automatically, via resonance, magnetically kind of interact with the negative entities in the astral that automatically, based on your negative feelings, would be attracted to you and to your energetic body, and they would just suck on it. You get back into your body. You would bring those entities with you without you knowing. So what I'm saying is that if you get out of body unexpectedly because you use drugs, you use artificial techniques, and it's not spontaneous, you can end up on having a lot of negative energies attached to your body, and you do not know about it. You come back to your body, and then suddenly you know that your behavior changed from day to day. You started to do things that you never did before, right? And that's the negative entities that you brought with yourself upon getting back to your body after your out-of-body experience that you kind of forcefully or rather that you got from using different techniques. Now, when you're out of body, sometimes Michael has a hard time coming back into the body. And it can be, that some other entity would jump into your body and you can never come back. I know there is a danger of that it might happen, because Michael told me many times, yes, it can happen, but it cannot happen to me. He said that somehow he's watching it, or I don't really understand how it works, but I know that, there is a possibility of that you won't be able to get back into your body, or there's a possibility that while being out of body, you get a lot of negative entities attached to your energetic body, to your light body, right? And you come back into your physical dense body with a lot of stuff from the astral, and you do not have to be aware of it at all. So yes, stuff happens. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time. We have like 2 minutes. You want to tell everybody about your book and how they can get it, and if you have any workshops or...
It's available on Amazon, and as I said, because many people wrote to me like, Julia, where is your book? I mean, I can't find you, and I'm like, well, you were looking under Julia Sellers or Eris Kirst. So basically, when you look for my book, it's available on Amazon.com. You go and type Eris Kirst. K-R-S-T, and the name of the book is I Have Seen It Tomorrow. I Have Seen It Tomorrow. And it talks about, a lot of stuff. It talks about different dimensions, about interdimensional travel, about nature of consciousness, about quantum physics, about different types of out-of-body experiences, about what you can see out of body, about, different techniques, how to get out of body, about a lot of stuff that Michael was able to see while in the body. So,
wow, fascinating. I recommend it highly. Thank you so much for coming on our show today. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Matt.
Well, thanks for having me, and have a wonderful time. Have a good night, or whatever time it is over in America. I don't know. Is it a more?
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Your body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution. Radio.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country is founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to the banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.